Good evening. Thank you for joining our third virtual town hall. I want to start by thanking the over 30 incredible individuals representing organizations, churches, and agencies in the mini with no formal roles other than their love for their village and the township that have rolled up their sleeves to work and deliver solutions for our residents. I am honored to work with such a dedicated group of individuals putting the interests of their neighbors, friends, and their community ahead of their own. This is how a community is able to move forward. And here in the village and the township, we'll be able to move forward and prosper together. I also want to thank the business community. They have been essential to helping keep our residents safe and continuing to provide the essential services such as food, groceries, and medications. We encourage you to connect with us through the various platforms that we have prepared so that our community stays informed. We have multiple sites that you can access the information. At the end of this telecast, we'll post that information for you so that it is readily available. We're also committed to the safety of our team, our residents, our community members while maintaining all the essential services to residents and businesses. To help ensure that residents continue to have access to life-sustaining resources, suspended all disconnection services for non-payment until further notice. We've also waived all late fees of any of all of our utility bills. So we want to reassure the residents that we're putting their needs ahead of everything, and they'll continue to receive the essential services from us. I also want to provide an update on our operating statuses. Like many other jurisdictions around us, we have transitioned into only essential personnel. So as a result of that, we are closing our utilities window. So any utility customers can continue to receive services from us. We just hope that you do so online and you call us the same numbers that you have used to reach out to us. We have new speakers joining us today, so I'll be brief with my remarks to allow them to provide their information. And before we go any further, I also want to remind the audience that at the request of some of our community members, we had worked to secure a sign language interpreter. We're working diligent to recruit someone, to hire someone that they can help us provide that much needed interpretation. We were unable to secure someone tonight, but we're working on making sure that on Monday's virtual town hall we'll have someone. And my colleagues joining me today are Brian Hausch, our council president, Johnny Burns, Colin Altman, Chief Brian Carlson, Karen Wolfer, Sandy Hollenbach, Lisa Abel from the Community Foundation, and Mayor Pam. I'll now hand the floor over to my colleagues. Brian Hausch.
All right. Thanks, Josue. And all right, so I guess I want to first just emphasize, like, and I think this has been talked about, from others, is, why we are doing this. And I want everyone to understand that what's really important here is that we're protecting ourselves and we're also, protecting our neighbors. So thinking about that, I think the first thing that is important to figure out here is how we are looking at activities with the John Bryan Center. And so Josue kind of mentioned, and I'll like emphasize that we're like definitely trying to make sure that we are practicing the physical distancing practices. And so with that, meetings moving forward, if they are urgent, we are going to be doing on a virtual platform. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means. But tonight's a great example of that. And ultimately, we are going to make sure that there's going to be like an opportunity for people to participate in those meetings. And at the end of the day, like what we want to make sure is that we're like focusing on critical business and then ultimately moving forward with whatever gaps we need to fill to support what we're doing as a community. So Josue, I'll let you like kind of pick up from there.
Thank you, Brian. Much appreciate your kind words. And we will now have our Director of Public Works, Johnny Burns.
Thanks, Josue. As of a lot of people understand, this morning we had a large amount of rain. We had 2.5 inches of water this morning. That's a big task in itself, but we also are doing this with half staff every other day. So just to let you know, we had a pretty good test this morning, but we was able to conquer it. We put about 6 million gallons of water through the plant this morning about 7 o'clock. And we had some major backups on some sewer lines, but we was able to overcome this and be able to still do it with half staff. We was put to the test, but we got it done. Another thing that I want to put out there as a reminder, because this was some of the cause of the high flow was one of the causes, but again, please do not flush anything down your commode unless it is toilet paper. This creates backups in our system. We had 2 of them that was caused by that today. We was able to get the lines unstuck. But please, again, do not flush anything. If it is not toilet paper, throw it in the trash, but do not put it down the commode. The other thing I'd like to say is when I leave here about 9 o'clock, I drive out of town. I can tell you that Yellow Springs, we are on it. There's nobody downtown. Everybody's in their houses. Very proud of the community, doing our part, making sure we're staying in the houses. And that's what it's taken to defeat this. So let's keep doing our part and keep moving forward.
Thank you so much, Johnny. And now we will hand the floor over to Fire Chief Colin Altman.
Some of the serious news.
Colin, I'm sorry you were muted for part of that.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, fantastic. Here at the fire department, we've also gone to essential personnel only, which means that we're all working, except this guy. Ohio-wise, we're up to 169 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the state, with sadly 1 death. However, there are no, let me underscore that again, no confirmed cases in Yellow Springs or in Greene County as of about an hour ago when I spoke with public health. Even so, it's still important to follow all the rules. The virus is still out there. We haven't even hit the peak yet, according to our public health experts. So remember, social distancing, stay 6 feet apart from each other when you can. Cover your cough. Stay home if you're sick, please. Stay home if you're sick. Speaking of sick, if you are sick, don't go to work. Employers have been asked to check temperatures on employees. Unfortunately, there's a real tough time getting thermometers right now. There's a group in town trying to collect thermometers to help out volunteers and employers. If you got a spare one, you can contact them on Facebook at It Takes a Village, Yellow Springs. We still have no shelter-in-place order from the governor, so you're still urged to stay home, but you can go to work if your employer requires it. You can go downtown to Tom's. You can go for a walk. The governor has asked that we all work to dispel the rumors about the National Guard. They were activated to assist with food bank distribution, and that's it. So it's about 400 soldiers. They're unarmed. They're not out to do any law enforcement. They're just out to help get food out to people. Having said all this serious stuff, I want to talk about something that's really important. And during these times where it's uncertain and you're locked up in your house, or you feel like you're locked up in your house, it's important to go out and have fun, or stay home and have fun. This is serious stuff, and we're very dire when we talk about things, but have a little bit of fun every day. Go outside, frolic. It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. Explore the park, the glen, the gorge. Just go for a walk on the bike trail. Keep your distance from each other, but do that. Play with your dog, your cat, or your iguana, whatever you may have. Have a family movie night. Go down to Tom's and get some popcorn. I'm sure they'd appreciate it there. Then sit down with the family, watch some Netflix, or even plan a romantic evening for you, your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, your husband, all of them. There's delicious takeout that you can still get from Calypso, Sunrise, or the Winds. Pair it with a bottle of wine from the wine cellar, or the Emporium, or even Nippers. So be a little lighthearted. You know, this is serious stuff, but have some good times. We can still do that. We'll get all through this together. So, and as always, we're here for you at the fire department if you need us. Call 911, call our non-emergency number, send us an email. We'll send a stormtrooper out to help you out if you need it. That's about it. So back to you, Josue.
Colin, thank you so much. I think we all needed that. We all need that, those kind words and that advice that, yes, we're facing serious times, but there's so much things that we can do with it.
Definitely.
And, you know, I went out for a long walk today. Long walk with Johnny, looking at all the water around town. And you know, having that opportunity to look at some other serious matters too is just helpful to get out and you know, there's plenty of work to do and other things. And the reminder for us, I think, is that, you know, we've got so much other business in running the government. An example, we put out a video or a post today that we've upgraded a water fountain here in the building. So now we have a water fountain that, you know, you can fill your water bottle when you're here, which folks in the building have been asking for. You know, the volleyball team and all the other folks have been wanting it. There's Johnny with his water bottle, and he's filling it up using that fountain. So thank you for those very kind words. And now I'll pass the floor to Chief Brian Carlson.
Good evening, everyone. Josue asked me to talk a little bit about potential scams that unfortunately some folks are taking advantage of the situation. I'm going to give you two websites here. So if you want to take a moment and grab a pen. The first, if you do receive a call that you feel is fraudulent, go to the Attorney General's website. That's ohioattorneygeneral.gov. ohioattorneygeneral.gov. Or you can call their toll-free number, 800-282-0515. They did ask, or when I spoke with them earlier today, they asked that you be patient because the call log is up and their staff are working remotely as well. So be patient there. The best website for anyone in the village that wants to get educated on some of the fraud that's taking place is go to ohioprotects.org. ohioprotects.org. The site offers great information where you can learn about fraud and file your complaint. Please remember just a couple of simple things. Never, ever give any personal or financial information out over the phone from someone that calls in to you. No government entity will call you and ask for credit cards or personal information over the phone. PayPal being mentioned on the phone or in an email does not guarantee that things are legitimate. The best advice that I can give you personally, and something that I tell my family and friends that I come in contact with here at the PD, is simply this: don't answer. If you have caller ID and you don't recognize a number, don't answer. If it's an important call or legitimate, and the call and the person, you know, what they're saying truly matters, the caller will leave a message. If it's a legitimate organization leaving the message, it gives you some time to vet the organization and make a responsible decision as to your next move. Remember, you can always call the Yellow Springs Police Department. We're there 24/7. That's 767-7206. If you are interested in making donations and would like to donate to local relief efforts, please contact the Yellow Springs Community Foundation, Yellow Springs Community Foundation at 767-2655. They are monitoring calls and messages, and they will get back to you as quickly as possible. You can also visit the credit union in town in person and make donations there as well. A last note is the Animal Control Center is not accepting any new animals at this time. We have actually seen a decrease in call for service the last few days, but we've had an uptick in animals. People are bringing animals they find to the police department. We were able to relocate and find the owners of 2 animals yesterday and today, but that is something to consider. Just keep a close eye on your pets, and if you notice an animal that's at large, don't hesitate to call us, but we probably won't be able to house the animal. Last, I want to thank everyone tonight and the Yellow Springs Community Foundation, all of the volunteers, everyone who's been dedicated to helping one another in town. It truly is inspirational seeing people help one another at the grocery store and loading cars. And I want to thank my fellow staff at the village for the dedication and care that everyone on the Yellow Springs team has displayed in this week 1, March 20th, 2020. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Brian. Now we will hear from Karen Wolford from the Senior Center. Karen.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Wolford with the Yellow Springs Senior Center. If you heard Governor DeWine's press conference today, he officially is closing all senior centers and senior daycare centers effective Monday. We, however, have been closed since this past Monday. We heard his words. He actually mentioned Greene County Senior Centers in his press conference. I translated that in my head to Yellow Springs, since Governor DeWine and his wife are great supporters of the Yellow Springs Senior Center. So that's where I translated Greene County to Yellow Springs. He did, however, say in his press conference that we can continue as senior centers to deliver essential services. Those are not to stop. For us, that includes transportation to doctor's appointments. Even though what we're seeing in the last couple of days has been an uptick in doctors canceling appointments unless they are absolutely necessary. But if you have a necessary doctor's appointment, we will transport you to that doctor's appointment, asking you to sit in the back seat of our car, asking you to sanitize the car, use tissues only once and throw them in our trash can. And our drivers have a whole procedure for sanitizing the car when they get out of the car and when they get into the car. We are continuing our partnership with Tom's Market in delivering groceries, including tomorrow's 10 deliveries. We are up over 25. I think we're at 26 households we've delivered to the village and to the township only since Wednesday. So we are very proud of the fact we've tweaked some processes in place as we've moved through. We also want to mention that our grocery delivery system is for anyone in need. So you do not have to be an older adult to get groceries from Tom's. We will process those just ongoing. It is for anyone in the 45387 zip code. We do have an email address at info@ysseniors.org that will take your orders. It really is preferable, but we know from our work with many older adults, they don't have email. So we will take phone calls. We have scaled back our operation immensely in the last couple of days. We are taking phone calls from 10 to noon every day, and we have very, very few staff in the senior center. There are a couple of us. Everyone else is working remotely. If you place an order by noon, we'll have it delivered the next morning. So we are not delivering on Sundays or Mondays. But other than that, we're going to get your groceries to you. We are also only delivering one time per week to a household. So you can't call on Tuesday, get a delivery of a half a pound of meat and a container of potato salad and then ask us 2 days later. We are encouraging everyone to get a week's worth of groceries at a time so that we can manage through what as we've seen, we've gone from 4 to 6 to 10 in just 3 days. So we know that it could get a little dicey. I'm not going to tell Chief Carlson about our credit card system, but we are calling to get credit card numbers for the orders after you've placed the order. If you are more comfortable, please, when we call, we'll leave you a message and then you can call us back, as Chief Carlson just said, so that we can secure your credit card numbers, know that they're not going anywhere and we're not keeping them on file. We take them to Tom's. He runs the credit card or the SNAP. We do take SNAP benefits as well. And then those credit card slips are destroyed. But if you feel more comfortable after you just listen to Chief Carlson, we'll call you, you call us back, and we'll get your credit card number. We have seen many people volunteering. I posted on Facebook today and the Yellow Springs Bulletin Board a picture of some volunteers outside Tom's Market practicing, 1, physical distancing, and 2, getting their orders for the day because they are shopping and then delivering orders. If you want to volunteer, I encourage you to call the Community Foundation, and we'll be tapping into probably all of those that are volunteering very shortly. We also wanted our older adults to know that Meals on Wheels is also available, so please contact us. They have lessened the requirement. There used to have to be a home visit before getting Meals on Wheels. They have now said that that's not necessary in this time of crisis. They'll sort of worry about the paperwork later. All we need is a name and an address, a telephone number, and a birth date, and we can get you on the Meals on Wheels. And I know for many folks who may have gone out of the home to do some things that are now really in their home, that Meals on Wheels is going to be very helpful. But please give us a call to get registered for Meals on Wheels. A couple of the things in still development is our calling to vulnerable seniors. And we're firming up that process on Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll start to begin calling folks with a personal phone call from the senior center just to see how they are and what's going on. One of the fallouts of what we do is that our homemaking program was discontinued on Tuesday. We did not feel it was safe for our folks to go into clients' homes, nor clients to accept folks that had perhaps been at a number of places before getting to their home. Just did not feel we were safe enough to be able to do that. Some of the things that we are now not doing is we have a 94-year-old gentleman who goes to the laundromat. We suggested that he not do that any longer, but he needs somebody to do laundry. So we're working on all of those things. So we will take special requests. We'll do whatever we can to help older adults in our village to get the services they need, answer their questions, and most importantly, what we have found in the last couple of days is people just need some reassurance. It's very frightening for those that are in that vulnerable population. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle it. And they're very, very, very lonely. And so we found ourselves in the last couple of days just having some quick chats with people who call and make sure that they're doing okay and know that we're out there to help. Once again, I have to say I'm very proud of our village. I think we're doing some awesome work. I talked to some friends that run senior centers in other locations, and they said, wow, you all are amazing. We don't have anything like that. So hats off to the Community Foundation, hats off to the village, Josue. It's just amazing to have an amazing place to work, and we can all be very proud of what we're doing. And I also agree with Chief Altman. Let's all smile, get a few laughs. I think somebody said this morning to deep breathe. I do that every morning before I even come to work. And I think it's important that we have some fun and lighten up a little, and we'll all get through this. Thanks so much.
Karen, thank you so much. And thank you for all that you've been doing for our community. You're an incredible asset in our community. So thank you. And now we have Sandy will join us. Sandy, please. All right, you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy with the credit union. And with the backing of the Community Foundation, we are now offering emergency loans that I want to make everybody aware of. It is intended for, the loans are intended for specific needs and very basic needs as a result of the crisis that we're in. Obviously someone that's needing food or gas up to a limit of $1,500 per loan, and we're restricting them to one per household. We are offering the loans with a maturity that can go out all the way to 2021, hopefully to be repaid sooner, so that we can be turning the funds around and providing access to more people who are in need. These will be actually at 0% interest to the borrower through the end of 2020. So being able to offer something quickly, something at low cost, and something that where the goal is to, again, be here for the folks that need them and to be able to turn these around quickly. They will not require any payment due until July of 2020. Gives folks an opportunity to hopefully get through a good portion of this mess. And our turnaround time at the credit union is all hands on for these loans. So from the minute we get a phone call about them, our goal is to have everything done and have it dispersed where within 45 minutes to an hour, the folks can have the funds. We are still open currently. Those things can be ever changing. However, we're encouraging as much of the disbursement and application process to be done electronically. We do have DocuSign and then phones to be taking the applications, or online applications can be submitted as well. As mentioned earlier in the meeting, we are accepting donations into the Community Foundation account for anyone who wants to come in and make a deposit for that purpose as well. We're restricting lobby access to six folks in the building at a time. We do have markings on the floor to mark off the space for every 6 feet, and we're trying to, as I said before, close as many of these as we can electronically, just to respect the spread of germs and everything else. So, and if anybody has any questions, like I said, we are staffed. Our regular office hours and phones are being answered. We are prepared to work remotely if we're required to close the lobby, and we're encouraging folks to make sure that they're having ATM cards and internet banking signed up, and everything possible to be able to access that. So if there are any questions, again, call the credit union at any time. And thanks to everyone who's helping. It's amazing. And just as Karen was saying too, I've talked to some folks and we're in communication with other credit unions, and we are on the leading edge with some of these things that we're doing. So thanks to all.
Thank you so much, Sandy.
You're welcome.
And now we'll hear from Mayor Pam.
Thank you, Josue, and everyone else for being here and participating in tonight's discussion. The first thing I want to review with you is something that I've mentioned before. I've talked about it in the paper, mentioned it on Wednesday evening, and like many of the projects that are going on in the village now, it's coming to fruition. So as of today, maybe a good way to remember this is back in the day, many of you are of a certain age where you remember back when we had 3 TV networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and NBC had a jingle. NBC. That's the way I remember the acronym for this project, and maybe it'll be helpful for you. NBC, the Neighborhood Block Contacts. Built upon the neighborhood block parties that happen every summer, we took a map of Yellow Springs and divided it into approximately 25 segments, and we assigned a volunteer to each segment after starting with the initial 7 or 8 block party hosts, and from there we networked out, and eventually we were able to divide the village of Yellow Springs and ultimately the township into approximately 25 sections. The village part is ready to go. Now, what this is within a 2, 3, 4 street radius, there will be 1 contact person, sometimes 2, for the neighborhood. And those people will contact all residents either through phone calls, which some neighborhoods are already doing, through emails, which some neighborhoods are already doing, or through postcards perhaps left on your door. Nobody's going to be knocking on your door to have you open your door. This is still in development, but I envision a postcard showing up saying, here's the name of your block contact, your neighborhood contact. And the purpose of this goes back to what several of you have already mentioned already. Perhaps an elder who needs some resources, has a question, needs some advice, perhaps somebody who just wants to talk, perhaps somebody who wants to volunteer to help someone else. So it's just a way of taking the big funnel from the federal level through the state down into Southwest Ohio and into our village. So neighborhood block contacts. You'll be hearing more about this as we develop it very early next week. Everybody, I want to remind you too, in this week's mail, you received a free or your subscription copy of the Yellow Springs News. Came to all addresses in Yellow Springs this time. Remember, inside you had your nice little blue card reminding us of healthy hygiene habits. And then on the back was a resource sheet. Please make use of that. I think you'll find it's very useful. But now it's time before we get to your questions, we're just going to have a quick little review here. On that blue sheet, one of the very first things you're going to see is cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze so you do not spread disease. Remember that. Secondly, take good care of your loved ones and yourself, and be thankful that we're in our little village. We socially distanced, physically distanced, but we are together. So keep that Yellow Springs News handy. Look for the Neighborhood Block Contact Project. Very soon, I envision taking those 25 names and publishing them somewhere along with each neighborhood so you know whom your contact person is. And this next part goes out to Johnny. Johnny Burns, I want to review a little something Johnny said. When you flush your toilet, does this go in? No. Good. Karen Wolford got that one. Does this go in? No. How about, does this go in? No, absolutely not. That's one of the worst offenders of all. Even Kleenex. Can you pitch a Kleenex in there? No. Johnny's saying no. Johnny's got everyone right so far because he knows. One last one. How about this guy? Does he go in? No. Josue, keep an eye on your children. One thing goes in your toilet before you flush. Johnny, 100%. And the rest of you, please remember, it's very important. Keep that auger clear as it's bringing stuff up. All right. Thank you.
Mayor Pab, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Okay.
The very useful advice, very useful advice. You'd be amazed at what's come through the sanitation plant. GoPro cameras. Apparently, we had a whole stack of GoPro cameras. I don't know how they got in there, but they're not flushable. So I get, or I suppose to say they are flushable. In fact, because they did made it through, but they're not supposed to go through. All right, I have one more colleague, which is she's been instrumental in getting us all to come together. Lisa Abel, if you could share some words with us, please.
Yes, thank you, Josue. As a reminder, I'm president of the board of the Community Foundation, also president of the board of the Development Corporation, and leaders from those groups, plus a whole bunch of other folks have been working at trying to figure out where the points of need are and matching those with folks who can help. And we continue to do that. I wanted to just piggyback on something that Sandy was talking about with the loans. Just a reminder before we go to questions that the details behind the loans are best worked out when you're talking to someone at the credit union. And there are different needs for different people. So I would encourage you, if you're thinking about getting a loan, or you just want to get more information before you make that decision, to contact the credit union to work out those details. So speaking of financial needs, we're, as a few folks have said, we are here in the village and township, we are working ahead of the curve of a lot of communities. And so while we are putting in place some stopgap measures with loans, with food pantry, with senior services, transportation, matching volunteers with people who need help, we are also waiting for the federal government and the state government and even county organizations where they can to help us with some of these bigger issues that are frankly going to be beyond our fiscal resources as a village and township. And here's how I see the dominoes working out. So if you start with bank loans, people who have loans for a mortgage, loans for their cars, their motorcycles, etc. At some point, the folks that are unemployed or who are not making enough money from their businesses are going to struggle to make those loan payments. And the feds are already indicating, they've worked with HUD and a couple of other groups to say, you need to suspend penalties for mortgage payments over the next 2 months and until we start to figure out what the needs are and how we're going to fill those. So once the banks can get in line with that, and I believe they will, given the proportions of this crisis, then the people who are trying to pay those banks get a little relief. And so then if you're a landlord of several properties and you're trying to make your mortgage payments, you may get some relief, which will be helpful because some of your tenants are going to be in this situation of not having enough income to pay their rent or to pay their full rent until they get back to kind of the full business cycle. Same happens for any of us that pay utilities. There's as Josue has mentioned, utilities are not going to be shut off. Late fees are not going to be assessed. DP&L is saying the same thing. So what I guess the message I want to say is that we're ahead of the curve. We don't know what other relief is coming, but we're anticipating that there will be more relief coming for all of us who are struggling with these questions about how am I going to pay my bills. At this point, if you already know you're going to have some trouble paying your rent or paying your utilities or paying your mortgage, highly, highly, highly encourage you to start having those conversations with the folks that you need to pay. Have those conversations now. It could be that maybe you can make a partial payment. It could be that maybe not that you can work out a time frame by which you can make up anything that you can't pay right now, or maybe you can pay right now, but you don't know about next month. Go ahead and have those conversations now. I think it's better to open this all up so that we can start to understand what those bigger needs are here. And as the community foundation, we are trying to understand what are those needs, and we want to hear from people. What are your financial needs? What are your physical needs? What are your emotional needs? Contact us. We've got folks who want to help. If you don't know how to have a conversation with your bank, we have people who are waving their hands saying, I'd like to help people in any way I can. We have people in the community who are skilled with those kinds of conversations. So you'll get the help you need. Just let us know. Just as a reminder, if you do want to let us know what your needs are, you can send an email to yscf@yscf.org. You can also leave a message at 937-767-2655. And again, also, if you want to volunteer, or if you want to donate, those numbers still apply. And in terms of the Friday afternoon, Friday evening humor, I've been telling folks a couple of weeks ago, I really should have scheduled a haircut, and I was putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And then I started thinking about, that's kind of tight space between me and the hairdresser, and maybe I don't want to do that. And so now I'm in the situation of I think I'm going to become a trendsetter with the first bowl haircut in the village. So anyway, you might want to join me. You might want to think about that. We're going to start something here. Thank you.
I see Johnny offering up his scissors. Thank you so much, Lisa. You hit on a very important point that there's so many resources that we're putting in place, and folks should feel comfortable, confident, and reaching out for assistance. They're not alone in any of this. We know that it's a hard time. A lot of folks are struggling now, and they may be struggling even more before any of this is over, or even after it's over and businesses open up. It's going to be a long recovery time. So start reaching out. Reach out to us. I know you heard us say we're waiving disconnects, orders. We're suspending all disconnection, waiving late payment fees. But reach out to us, because we also have a list of additional resources. Lisa mentioned many of them, but there's plenty of resources out there. If we can do anything to connect you to those resources, also consider us a resource. So call us. Our phone number is 937-767-7202. And for the utility office, dial option 2. So reach out to us. We're now going to open up the floor for questions, and we're taking questions via the different platforms that we're on: Facebook, YouTube, and you can also call in your questions. And the phone number to call in your questions is 937-767-3402. And let's see, let me turn to my colleague and see if we have any questions. Philip, do we have any questions? All right, I see some are coming through. Where do people go to apply for loans, and where is more information available? There's also a follow-up question. Is there any interest on the loans? So there's 2 questions for Sandy, and I have Sandy on the line. I'll let you jump in, Sandy. Sandy, there you go.
The best way to apply for the loan is one of 2 ways. Either call us at 937-767-7377 or at our website, www.yscu.org. There's a link where you can apply online. And with that, we can have that turned around electronically. If for some reason you cannot have access to a computer and sign via DocuSign, we can make arrangements with you to have the papers picked up and dropped off in the office and still give a quick turnaround time. And what was the second question?
What are the interest on the loans?
It's interest free until the end of this year, and then 2.75 if the loan goes into 2021.
Mhm. I'd say that's a great deal. 0 interest loans through the end of the year. So thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Community Foundation, for making that resource available. We have question number 3 is, what is the likelihood of a village-wide rent abatement policy being implemented? Thank you for your question. We reached out to our partners at the county courts and the treasurers and others in the county. And as far as evictions go, I know that's a real worry for a lot of folks. The courts are suspending foreclosure and evictions, so that's not taking place now. The village government has limitations on what kind of policy it can implement to eliminate that threat or that concern for residents. While we're currently not able to do something legislatively to do a rent abatement or canceling any of those potential evictions for folks down the road, we've made the appeal to landlords to have some leniency, to show some compassion. We understand that they may be struggling as well, but we're all struggling. And the way to get forward is showing some compassion and working together and being understanding of the situation. So we hope that the landlords and all those managing properties in our village and our township are going to show compassion through this time. This is the hardest circumstance that our generation or many generations will see in their lifetime. Something like this has not happened in the last 102 years. So we hope that the landlords will work with us and will work with their tenants to get through this together. Lisa, is there anything you want to add to that, or anyone else? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next question. What is currently the biggest need in the village? What do you anticipate being the largest need in the next few weeks? I'll let our community service providers for that. I think there's 2 primary areas of support right now. It's food, getting food for our most vulnerable communities. Those are those that are having difficulty come out, whether because out of concern for their own personal safety, they may be immunocompromised, or it's just not advisable for them to come out. And if there's any support we can do for them to bring them all their essentials. And then obviously we have some folks that struggle on a regular basis, even if they're employed, because they're underemployed or have very low wages. And this just compounds the situation. It already puts pressure on families that are already struggling. I'll let my colleagues jump in with any additional responses.
Josue, I just want to mention, this is Brian. Don't forget or hesitate to contact us and give us names and phone numbers of anyone, loved one or friend that you'd like us to make contact with. We're doing that regularly. The list is getting bigger, but it seems to be a wonderful thing for the folks that we are calling. And I think Karen mentioned that, some folks are very lonely. We do have a pretty large community of people who live alone. And so just at this time, just talking, comforting is a great way to reach out and touch people. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Lisa from the Community Foundation.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say what's the one thing because there's so many things that are popping up. Certainly, as Josue mentioned, food security, also delivery services, which we have in place for a lot of the food providers. And then there comes the economic support, financial assistance, and childcare, youth services. We're going to have Melissa Doster from the Children's Center speak to us next week about the childcare. The governor's been hinting that daycare centers will be closed at some point, but there will be centers that will operate for the benefit of taking care of the kids of healthcare workers. And then the other piece that we don't want to lose sight of, which is why we're doing these town halls, is the whole communications. Karen touched on that, Mayor Pam touched on that, Brian touched on that, Colin touched on that, as did Josue, that we're trying to find all the different ways that we can to keep people informed, to get the feedback from you all about what's going on in your daily lives. So I think there's not just one thing.
Thank you, Lisa. And the other thing that we need to stress is that this is a marathon. We have to be prepared for the marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not what we're facing now, the immediate need. There's a real need there, but we have to think long term and we have to plan long term. I was reading the orders at the national level on mortgages to make allowances and exemptions for folks that may lose their jobs for up to a year. And I think it can take that long, if not longer. So we have to be prepared for the long work that's ahead. We have to be prepared for the marathon. So hang in there with us. Okay, we have a few more questions that have come in. Does anyone know if the state is ever going to actually get enough tests? I think, I don't know. We don't know. I think one of the things that you've seen Dr. Acton speaking and the governor speaking, it's about flattening that curve. So we have less need for those medical services, less need for all those tests. And while we're still upward trending, our caseloads have significantly increased over the last couple of days, as Colin mentioned, but we're trying to keep that flatten that curve, limit the need for all those resources. Colin, do you have anything you would like to add to that or answer that question? And then I'll hand the floor over to Lisa Krieger.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna see anytime soon a point where there's tests for all. We're just ramping up, not nearly as quickly as we should have or could have. The state's hands are tied. I'm on calls with public health and EMA every day, and they wish they had kits for everyone, but they don't. The governor is trying to make a priority right now for testing core populations, so some of the elderly, some immunocompromised people, as well as healthcare workers and first responders. So, eventually, hopefully, we'll get to a point where there's more tests available. But for now, if you really have symptoms and your doctor says so, you probably can get a test. Otherwise, everyone else is just gonna have to kind of chill for now, I think. $35.
Right. All right, Lisa, you have the floor.
Hi, yes. Hello, everybody. I totally agree with Colin. And what I would like to reinforce is that the situation of testing in the United States is, it's not really at the core of how we're understanding what's going on with this disease. Because right now we're only able to test because of test availability, people who already have symptoms. So what you need to do is follow all of the protective issues that we've already talked about. And if you have symptoms, reach out to healthcare providers. And I think everyone should assume that they're infected with the disease, whether or not you have fever, whether or not you have any symptoms. We should all assume that we are positive and protect our community in that way through physical distancing. But if you have a fever, or if you have a fever and or a dry cough, reach out to healthcare providers and they will direct you what to do. But really, if you don't have symptoms, don't worry about getting a test. those tests are very rare and you should just avoid using up that capacity.
Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, going back to the other questions that have come in. Will the village be able to install biodirectional meters as houses become ready for a newly ready solar system? The short answer is if you can get your installation to pass inspection by the county, we will get a meter for you. And I put that condition on our work because the permit office has closed. So they're not processing those permits, they're not processing those inspections. So my understanding is they were closing up all loose ends. So there were a few folks who were already in a select few pipeline. I think that they were getting their service, but I don't think that they're scheduled any new inspections. And I'll let Johnny jump in with any additional information. Johnny, do you have any other information on the permit?
The last I heard, they was closed for a minimum of 2 weeks, and they are only doing emergency inspections only.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's the information that we have. So they're doing very limited inspections. So if your property comes up for one of those inspections and we get the certificate, we'll provide you a meter. Or I should say, we'll go out and install the meter. Thank you, Johnny. The next question is, has there been any discussion about when school will reopen? I believe Terry was on the line. Yes, she is Terry. Terry is on the line. Terry, are you available to speak on this matter?
Yes. Can you hear me, Josue?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Great. I'm off video, but I'm certainly able to answer that question. And the answer right now is that we don't know, but if you watch the governor's press conference every day at 2 p.m., he hints almost daily that 3 weeks will not be enough. And just today, he said, honestly, we should probably plan for being out of school for the rest of the year. That wasn't a definitive, but it was in one of his remarks, and it indicates how he's behaved, his behavior patterns through this, where he hints and hints and hints, and then the action occurs. So I would say that our return to school on April 6th is not likely, not official, but I would say that is not likely. And as soon as I have definitive information from the governor and the Ohio Department of Education, I will send detailed information out to parents and families. We keep a pretty updated website at ysschools.org, so you can always check that. We are actually entering our spring break week today and next week, so hopefully everyone can take a little breather, and that will give me time to do data collection so that I can pass that on.
Thank you so much, Terry. Okay, I believe we have another question coming through. There are plans for sheltering those are there plans for sheltering those experiencing homelessness? There's a follow-up. I can imagine shelter-in-place orders being a conundrum for folks who have no shelter in the first place. That's a very difficult question to answer. And I think with some of there's already a challenge sheltering homeless individuals under normal circumstances. And now with this pandemic where all non-essential services are being shut down or minimized, we know that the homeless population remains among the most vulnerable to be served. And I'm not aware of any services that are being coordinated right now for the homeless population. I know that the Greene County Public Health had reached out to us about what we were doing and what we could do. And that's very challenging because we don't have those services in place. We don't have a shelter. We don't have housing assets that we could devote to housing the homeless. I believe Police Chief Brian Carlson was in contact with a few groups trying to coordinate a response for homelessness. And Brian, if you have anything that you could add to this.
Josue, that's a great question. The homelessness is a difficult situation, as you mentioned, without this situation that we're through. I need to make contact with Bridges of Hope and kind of get their update. I believe that they have security things in place as well to combat the spread of this. I think what we need to do possibly is begin a broader conversation to find out what options we may have. At this point in Yellow Springs, it's difficult. I wish I could give you more information and something that, you know, was uplifting, but that's the truth. And we take each case by case. Our COS Florence Randolph works diligently to place homeless persons that we come in contact with, and we can go from there.
Thank you, Brian. More questions, Philip? And that's it. Okay, that's the last question that we received. I want to remind the audience that we're still taking questions. You can go on Facebook or YouTube and write in your question, or you can call us. Call in your question at 937-767-3402. And if you don't have a question now, it's okay. We can take your questions offline. You can mail them to us or email them to us, call us, and we'll try to get answers for you. Philip, who's part of our team or part of our communications team, is working on a frequently asked questions. So he's writing these questions down, and as information is being provided or responses being provided, we're creating a document where we're make available on our website. That web page is already available now. So if you go to our website, which is ysl.com, on the first image on the banner, you click on that. That's the coronavirus website. It'll take you to our dedicated website to that. And at the bottom of that page, a link to.
Sometimes I do, so I need to know.
At the bottom of that page, there's a link to those frequently asked questions. So that information is there on our website. Any more questions, Philip? No? All right. Well, if there are no further questions, thank you to all of our wonderful colleagues that participated in this call and have participated in previous calls. We look forward to continuing these virtual town halls Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So tune in, or you can always reach out to the various entities that are working on providing you resources. Again, we're here as a resource, as a partner, and as a community. Don't hesitate to reach out. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.